So today we'll be talking about alchemy and how you can make gold with this profession. If you haven't already chosen a specialization, you will need to do that. There are 3 specs you can choose from: Elixir Master, Potion Master, Transmute Master. Once you decide which spec you want, travel to these NPCs to learn it. So let's get into it. There are 3 different branches of alchemy to cover. As an alchemist, you can craft any of these items. However, by choosing a spec, you will get an extra 20% proc chance for your chosen category. If you go Elixir Master, you will get 20% extra flask. If you go Potion Master, you get 20% extra potions. If you go Transmute Master, you get 20% extra transmutes. So let's talk about which spec is the most profitable and which one you should choose. Let's compare getting an extra proc on each of the specs. An extra flask will give you an extra 60 to 80 gold. An extra potion proc will give you an extra 48 gold. An extra living steel, for example, will give you an extra 400 to 500 gold. Prices will of course vary depending on server, but you get the point. Transmute spec is definitely the winner. If you only have one alchemist, make sure that alchemist is transmute spec. If you happen to have 3 alchemists, you can have all 3 specs covered and produce 20% extras on everything. The most important flasks to make are the main stat flask, agility, intellect, strength. There may be a smaller market for the stamina and spirit flask on your server, and if there is, definitely sell those. Even if you are a transmute spec, there is no reason to ignore this market if there is profit potential. Check your auction house to see for yourself. The most important potions to make are the main stat potions, agility, intellect, strength. There may be a market for the potion of luck on your server, especially if you have a lot of people who like to farm mobs. Also, the invisibility potions are in demand by people who like to do challenge modes, and there are 2 kinds of invisibility potions you can make. The 18-second version is more difficult to produce as the ghost mushroom herb is rare. However, the lesser invisibility potion is only 3 seconds less and the mats are cheap and abundant. Check your auction house and see. Again, even if you're a transmute spec, don't ignore this market if there is profit potential. So now we'll talk about transmute spec. Make sure you do your daily cooldown for living steel. You can sell the living steel on the auction house. If you happen to have access to other professions, you can further convert it to belt buckles, weapon chains, blacksmithing epics, jewel crafting panthers. The trillium bar transmute has no cooldown, so if you are a transmute spec, this can easily be a gold mine. 20% extra procs means your material cost is lower than someone who isn't transmute spec. Sell those trillium bars raw and keep some for your daily cooldown. If you have access to other professions, you can further utilize those trillium bars to make blue, blacksmithing, tanking gear. And make sure you have a good supply for patch 5.4. They will be used by blacksmiths for 3 things: the new daily cooldown, the new PvP gear, and the new epics. Transmuting rare gems can also be very profitable, and even more profitable if you are a transmute spec. There are 6 colors of gems you can make: 3 good ones, purple, orange, and green, and 3 bad ones, red, blue, and yellow. The bad gems are bad because they are saturated on most servers and are in less demand. The good colors are good because they are in high demand, less saturated, and also used to create metas. So make tons of the 3 rare purple, orange, and green gems. Sell those gems raw in the auction house and also turn some of them into metas. When you transmute the metas, you will also be getting 20% extra procs. Sell these metas raw, and if you have access to a jewel crafter, you can further cut these metas and make more profit. Remember to always have a look at your auction house and become familiar with your server's economy. There are lots of spreadsheets available on the web to help you determine prices, but I've had a lot of people tell me they're just too complicated for them. So I've made some simple diagrams to help you figure out prices. This diagram will help you determine what price you should be buying your ghost iron bars at and what price your trillium bars will be if you are not transmute spec and if you are transmute spec. Go to the section that applies to you. So on my server, for example, I buy ghost iron bars at 100 gold a stack. I am transmute spec, so that means my trillium bars are costing me just over 41 gold to produce. Please keep in mind that if you're only making 10 trillium bars at a time, don't expect to see 20% extra procs. You must be making a lot to truly see that 20%. I usually make batches of 100 trillium bars at a time, and I always end up with 120 trillium bars plus or minus a few due to RNG. I've also included in that diagram a comparison for the black and white trillium ore, as they are also used to produce trillium bars. If you happen to have access to a miner, you can determine which is the cheaper option for you based on your server prices. If you don't have access to a miner, just ignore that section of the diagram. Let's now talk about pricing for those rare gems and metas. You will need uncommon gems and golden lotus to transmute those rares. On most servers, you can find uncommons anywhere from 5 to 10 gold apiece. If you happen to have a jewel crafter, you could potentially produce those uncommons for even less. Assuming you don't have a jewel crafter, I've made two diagrams. The first diagram assumes your uncommons are 5 gold apiece. The second diagram is the same, just with uncommons valued at 10 gold apiece. So refer to the diagram that best represents your server's economy. And feel free to make your own custom diagram if you want to input more specific information. On my specific server, I buy my uncommons for approximately 5 gold apiece since I've gotten bored with prospecting. My golden lotus are usually 50 gold each, so that means my metas are costing me 229 gold to produce with my transmute spec alchemist. If I wasn't transmute spec, my metas would be costing me 330 gold to produce. That difference alone should be enough to convince you how awesome transmute spec is. Here's a quick look at the second chart that values uncommons at 10 gold apiece. You can refer to any of these diagrams easily from our website, YouTube, or Twitch. With these prices in mind, you can set up convenient shopping lists with the mod Trade Skill Master, otherwise known as TSM. So you will need the main mod TSM and the TSM shopping module. There are lots of other great TSM modules that I cover in my live stream. However, right now we're going to focus on TSM shopping. So here's what TSM looks like. And here's the shopping module at the top. We'll go into TSM shopping and set all the items you want to buy to make gold with alchemy. So the 3 uncommon gems, I have 3 of them in here. There's one. There's the other one. And there's the other one. And you just easily put them in by naming the list whatever name you want, and then shift click the item and it'll pop down here and you put the maximum price you want to pay for that item and it'll be done. Also, the golden lotus is something that you're going to have to be buying as an alchemist, so you have to put that one in there and set the price you want to pay for your golden lotus. And then ghost iron, if you're buying the ore or the bar, it depends on if you have a miner or not, and you set the price for what you want. So after you have your shopping list set up and have all the items in there that you want, you run over to the auction house and you do a quick scan. So for example, if I was looking for the green uncommon gems, I would hit this and it would scan the auction house and try to find all the green uncommon gems that were under 5 gold a piece, because that's the price parameter I set. You set it to whatever works for your economy. So there's a lot there that's under 5 gold a piece. I could easily buy them out, but I have lots of stock that I don't need to buy any right now. But that's the point. You come to the auction house and buy anything to build up your inventory so you have a nice stockpile to keep you going. And then golden lotus would be the same thing. If you happen to need more golden lotus, you come and do a scan. I typically scan the auction house once or twice a day, and I skim all the cheap materials off the auction house, and I keep taking all the cheap items, and I keep a nice inventory, and I use them as I need them. So there's lots of golden lotuses here. If I happen to need them, I would buy a whole bunch, but I already have a lot. I don't need to buy any more right now. So that's basically what you do. You just set up your shopping list, you come to the auction house, you scan when you can, buy the items that you need, and keep a good inventory as a backup, because you never want to run out of your materials. And if you don't have TSM and you want to become more efficient at gold making, you definitely should go download it. So once you buy all your items, you should try to keep everything nicely organized so you can quickly access whatever items you happen to need. So if you need your golden lotuses, you can pull them out, you can make some gems, do whatever you need to do. Just make sure you're nice and organized so you can quickly do things if someone happens to buy out a whole bunch of your gems and you gotta make more, or if your metas are all selling and you want to make more, then you just quickly make whatever it is that you happen to need. There are a few old markets that have profit potential, markets that are often overlooked or forgotten about. Have a look at your auction house and see if any of these are profitable. If you are a transmute spec, you get 20% extras. You can turn essence of water into essence of air, you can turn primal water into primal air, you can do transmute living elements, and you can get volatile air easily as long as you go and stand in Uldum while you do the transmute. And these three transmutes do use a daily cooldown, the same cooldown as living steel, so you should only be doing this if you are still leveling alchemy and you haven't learned the living steel recipe yet. Transmute primal might. They are used to make epics from various professions, alchemy, tailoring, blacksmithing, and leatherworking. I'm not suggesting you make those low-level epics, just supply the primal mites on your auction house if it's profitable. Arcanite bars are used to make the Thunder Flurry legendary. Consider dabbling in this market if it's profitable on your server. Serenite bars can be transmuted into titanium bars. They are used to level some professions, jewel crafting, blacksmithing, engineering, so if that's profitable, you can consider playing around with that market. Old metas are also something you could consider selling, especially if there's a twink market on your server. And remember, these last four items, Primal Might, Arcanite bars, Titanium bars, and the old metas, benefit from procs as transmute spec, and they don't use a daily cooldown, so you can make as much of those as you want. And finally, Vial of the Sands. If you happen to have that recipe, there could be a market for that two-person mount on your server. This is a rare recipe you get from archaeology, but you must be an alchemist to make it. So there you have it, alchemy in a nutshell. I hope you learned something from this video that you can turn into gold on your server. I will be covering other professions in future videos. Stay tuned.